Hi guys, welcome to .NET Go. Our today's topic is CLR in .NET Framework. Okay, now what is CLR? CLR is stands for Common Language Runtime. Okay, CLR is basic and virtual machine component of the .NET Framework. It is the runtime environment in the .NET Framework that runs the codes and helps in making the development process easier by providing the various services. Basically, it is responsible for managing the execution of .NET programs regardless of any .NET programming language. CLR is helps to run a managed code application. Every component of CLR plays an important role to run an application in a .NET framework. Okay. So now, by this 4 points, right, in the slide, if you can see, so CLR is nothing but the full form is Common Language Runtime. Now this Common Language Runtime, I request you to request to all of you that please remember this full form Common Language Runtime, or the short form called CLR. This is very important topic in a .NET framework. Okay. So now what it is actually is, so when you as a developer, when you code some program, okay, you have some you want to develop some application and you started coding, suppose in C sharp you started coding, and then uh, suppose you want to run your application. After developing, you want to run your application. So CLR is nothing but it gives you execution environment where you can run your application. Okay, so how it is running and how it is helps you to run your application, that we will find out in our later slide. But for now, yeah, what is CLR? CLR is nothing but an execution environment which is available in a .NET framework, right? And most of the time it helps you to execute a managed code. Now if you don't know what is a managed code, so I recommended you, I have a session, a separate session of what is a managed code and what is unmanaged code. Please watch that session first. Okay, now how it is working, means how the CLR is working. Okay, so at first, so before started this slide, I want to show you one diagram. Okay, this diagram, if you can see this diagram, so in this diagram you can see the first we are having this source code box, this source code. So the source code is nothing but whatever a developer is write it as a code. Okay, so if you are a developer, when you are coding, so that files, when you are saved for a later execution, that file is called as a source code. Okay, and then another box we are having something called language compiler. Okay, now you have to understand that you written the code, suppose in C sharp. So what happen is C sharp is a bit English specific language. So if you ever worked in C sharp previously, then you can know. But if you didn't work with C sharp at all, so let me tell you, when you will work with C sharp, you will almost you can understand that you will almost write a language which is similar to English. Okay, so the syntax wise it is pretty understandable if you know English. Okay, is a kind of English specific language. So for C sharp, they have in .NET have own language compiler. So different languages like C sharp, Java, then C plus plus, and C. So different languages having different language compiler. Okay, so language compiler is one thing which is always different. It depends on in which technology you are working. So based on that, it's having their own compiler. So now, as a example, we consider that C sharp is our programming language. So first of all, the source code file was that one, and then in .NET framework, .NET gave a specific language compiler which compiles our C sharp language. Okay, so what happened is the language compiler takes the source code and you know it's make a MSIL code. We are calling as a MSIL code. You can see here MSIL code. So I just suggest you at this very moment, just empty your mind, guys, and listen to my word very very carefully, because this topic is very very important. I want that you guys completely understand this particular topic. Okay, so first of all, source code, then the language compiler will come, take the source code, and from the source code it will make a different type of thing, you can say, which we will call as a MSIL code. Now what is MSIL code? You must have a question that what is MSIL code. Now the full form of MSIL code is Microsoft Intermediate Language. Okay, Microsoft Intermediate Language. Okay, so what happened, and okay, now with the MSIL, the language compiler also provide the metadata. Okay, the metadata of your code. Now what is a metadata, right? If you go in the previous slide, now how it is working here, so you can see at first the language compiler compiles the source code into the MSIL, means Microsoft Intermediate Language, which is also known as CIL. If anyone tells you what is CIL, so don't get confused, because CIL and MSIL is same. So MSIL full form is Microsoft Intermediate Language, and CIL full form is Common Intermediate Language. Both are same. Okay. So the compiler compiles the source code into MSIL, which is also known as CIL, along with its metadata. Okay. Now metadata includes all the types, actual implementation of each function of the program. Okay. So what happen is a metadata can you can assume a metadata is contain all the information about your programming. Okay, about your functions of your programming, which you have developed, or the types of data, okay, which are there in your program. So all the details is containing by the metadata, and your language compiler provides you one MSIL code with the metadata. Okay, now just assume it virtually. Suppose you want to cook a curry. Okay, I'm not joking with you. You just assume these things. You want to cook a curry. Okay, suppose you want to cook a curry. Okay, now that specific curry, require the requirement to prepare that curry is, you cannot give all the ingredients directly, means you cannot give the onion, tomato and spices directly. you know so for that, first of all, what you need to do, first of all, you need to cut those pieces of your ingredients, right? You have to cut those onions, okay, into separate pieces, and then you have to cut those for example, tomato uh, in a separate pieces, and then spices, all those things. So here language compiler, for example, language compiler is do nothing. It takes the source code, and it's create one more code called MSIL along with the metadata. Okay, so it divides the source code in and creates one MSIL code and the metadata. And then now what happen is, Now CLR, if you read the second point here, then you can understand. Then what happen is, then CLR provide the services and runtime environment to the MSIL code. Okay, to the MSIL code. So what happen is, so that source code, the CLR is nothing have to do with the source code directly. Okay, so again, if you go back to the previous example of cooking example, okay, so you cut it down all your ingredients. Now you want to grind your ingredients. You have a mixer grinder, you want to grind. Now to grind those ingredients, you have to cut those ingredients first, right? Because your mixer grinder nothing to nothing to do with your direct ingredients. To mix those ingredients, to grind those ingredients, you have to first cut those ingredients, right? So kind of thing is going on here in CLR, if you can see. So first that language compiler takes your source code, and then make one more other code called Microsoft intermediate language with the metadata, where metadata having all the information about your programming, about your programs, and about your program types. And there is a different code called Microsoft intermediate language. Then the CLR comes into the picture and takes your MSIL with your metadata, and provides you your runtime environment. And then CLR, what the CLR doing is, CLR have his own compiler. Okay, that compiler name is JIT, JIT, JIT. The full form is just in time compiler. Okay, so the CLR comes and CLR takes your MSIL code with the metadata and put those code into the JIT compiler, just in time compiler. Now what the just in time compiler is doing, if you can see here, the just in time compiler which converts the MSIL code to machine code, which further executed by your CPU. Okay, so you must have heard about you know about this word like machine level language, program level language and machine level language. So what the CLR is doing is, step by step, now you can understand that your source code is nothing but your programming level language. So that code is understandable by you. Okay, you code it, you complete your coding, and then when you are running your CPU, your core CPU, which actually executes your program, that CPU doesn't understand your source code directly. Okay, so the CPU is understand particularly one kind of language which we used to call as a machine level language. So the way it is processing your source code towards to the machine level language, in that thing the CLR is comes into the picture in .NET framework. I hope you understand this thing. Okay, so now after it is takes the MSIL code with your metadata, and it is gives it gives your the MSIL code to the just in time compiler, and this JIT compiler or the just in time compiler converts your MSIL code into the native code, which is nothing but your machine level code. Okay, then your CPU can understand, okay, you have write it down this type of program. Okay, after that your CPU started executing this one. Okay, so this whole part actually handled by your CLR. Okay, common language runtime. So itself, the CLR name itself telling you that it is a common language runtime. So common language, so your CPU having one specific language to run, so that language only you need to convert. It doesn't care that, like, it doesn't depends on in which language you are actually written your program, but in end of the process, right, your programming language is converting into the machine level language, which is a common language for your CPU. That is why this process name, this thing name called common language runtime. Okay, this thing is CLR. Okay, Okay, now component. So CLR is having few components in it. So each and every components actually doing some important tasks to towards this whole process. Okay, so what happen is it is having one component called CLS. CLS stands for Common Language Specification. Okay, it is responsible for converting the different .NET programming language, syntactically rules and regulations into CLR understandable format. Okay, basically it provides language in interoperability. Okay, so it provides language interoperability. I'm very sorry for my slip of tongue. Okay, so it provides language interoperability. Okay, now what is language interoperability, right? Now language interoperability means providing execution support to other programming languages also in .NET framework. Okay, now there are two types of you can achieve language interoperability. Okay, one is managed code, another one is unmanaged code. So I already told you I have a very brief session. Okay, of for this topic, what is managed code and what is unmanaged code. So please go and watch this that video first. I hope you will see a eye icon currently in your screen. You can just click on that screen, that link, and you can redirect it to that particular session. Please watch that session first. Okay, so now I think you can understand what is CLS. CLS stands for Common Language Specification. Okay, what it is doing is it is actually responsible for converting the different .NET programming languages. Okay, now suppose if you as a developer you have coded through C sharp. Okay, other developer coded through F sharp or C++ or anything. Okay, so this particular component, what it will do is it will convert every language is whatever, whether it is a C sharp or it is a F sharp, it doesn't matter for this guy is actually converting your different languages into a understandable format, which is further used by the JIT compiler. So you can see the how the MSIL language is being created, right? So this components actually helps to create MSIL code also, and further that code is executing in JIT compiler. Okay, and then converting into the the native code. Okay, now another component we are having called CTS. Okay, CTS. Now CTS stands for Common Type System. Okay, Common Type System. Now you can understand the name is Common Type System. Okay, now CTS is responsible for understanding all the data type systems of .NET programming languages and converting them into CLR understandable format, same thing, which will be a common format. So if you can see in the previous slide over here, yes, here you can see this particular line called metadata includes all the types, actual implementation of each function of the program. So this all includes all the types is nothing but the CTS common type. This to includes this all the types, the CTS actually helps, and actual implementation of each function is actually helped by CLS. The CLS common language specification, and then CTS common type system. Okay, now for adds on at high level, you can understand, you can see there like there are two types of uh, you know two types of data type you can have. Okay, in a .NET programming language, one is value type, one is reference type. Now what is value type? Value type will store a value directly into a memory location. These types work with stack mechanism only. Okay, CLR allows memory for this at compile time. Okay, and what is reference type? Reference types will contain a memory address of value because the reference types won't store the variable value directly in memory. Okay, these types work with heap mechanism. Okay, CLR allot memory for this at runtime. Okay, so these two are very different things, and we will have a very brief session particularly dedicatedly, you know, uh, you know on this topic, that what is a value type and what is a reference type, and we will see all the other things also briefly in it. So for now, you can just understand that there are two types: value types and reference types, and CTS actually helps to understand all the data types. Okay, then two more component is having. One is garbage collector. So for garbage collector also we will have a separate session, because garbage collector itself a very important component of CLR. We will have a separate session itself to understand what is garbage collector and how it is working. Okay, so for now you can just have a high level definition of garbage collector, which is like it is used to provide the automatic memory management feature. If there was no garbage collector, programmers would have to write the memory management codes, which will be a overheadache for a programmers, right? So and the second thing is JIT compiler, just in time compiler. This is also nothing but a component of of a CLR. Okay, JIT compiler, which converts the MSIL code into the machine level code or a native code. So it is responsible for converting the CIL, common intermediate language. Now common intermediate language and the MSIL, Microsoft intermediate language, the both are a same thing with a different name. Okay, so so it is responsible for converting the CIL or MSIL into machine level code or native code using the common language runtime environment. So here are I have some small diagram of the four component figure. With the four component figure, one is CLS, common language specification, another one is CTS, common type system, and then garbage collector, and then JIT compiler, which is just in type compiler. Okay, here. Okay, benefits we have. Surely we have some benefits of CLR. What are those benefits? Which is you can see one by one. Like it improves the performance by providing a rich interact between programs at runtime. You know, and the second thing is security also increases, at it analyzes the MSIL instruction whether they are safe or unsafe. Also, the use of delegates in place of function pointers enhance the type safety and security. So this particular second point, for now you can memorize this thing. Later onwards we will discuss about what is delegates and actually what is type safety. you know so those things we will discuss in our later session. And the third point is support automatic memory management, with the help of garbage collector. So yes, garbage collector is one of the very important component of a CLR, and it supports automatic memory management. And how it is working and what it is, actually we will discuss briefly in our later session. We will have a separate session for this one. And then provide support to use the components that developed in other .NET programming languages, correct, and provide language, platform, and architecture independence. It it allows easy creation of scalable and multi-threaded application, as the developer has no need to think about memory management and security issues. Correct. So now you will not have any idea like what is going on in the fifth benefit. But yeah, I strongly recommend it. please memorize all those benefits. Few of them you can understand, okay, and few of them you will not understand right now, but yeah, those things also comes under a benefit, like what is a multi-threading application, you guys will not understand for now, right? And we will have a very much, a deep session, that what is threading and what is multi-threading and what is asynchronous programming. All those things is comes under the same family. Okay, so yeah, we will have a separate session, and we will do the practical also for that. Okay, tips for this particular session. Okay, so first tip is, please remember the full forms of CLR, CLS, CTS, MSIL, CIL, and JIT. And if you if find out any other short form also, then please, if I missed if I missed it anyhow in the whole session, please, just go in the Google and just Google it, what is the full form of that particular thing. It is very important, because the interview, you don't know, the interviewer will ask uh, by the short form or by the full form, right? So you must have that memory, or that knowledge, that okay, this thing means that your interviewer is referring for that particular thing. If you're, for example, if your interviewer asking for what is common language runtime, then you should you know relate to that interviewer is asking for what is a CLR. And if your interviewer asking, suppose for example, if your interviewer asking is what is a JIT compiler, then you, in a fraction of second, your memory should tells you, okay, JIT compiler means just in time compiler. So that is why, please remember all the full forms. And then, okay, this thing already I have mentioned, that before start with this session, please understand the concept of managed code and unmanaged code. So I have a very much, brief session of what is managed code and what is unmanaged code. Please go and watch that session. And if you want to watch any other videos also, in any other session also, then you are always open and go to, other to watch other session. I'll don't have any issues with that at all. And after that, but yeah, please, before starting this session, please have a clear understanding that what is a managed code and what is a unmanaged code. Okay. And then the interview questions, I have noted down few important interview questions. This topic itself a very important topic, in the going future, in very if you attend suppose 10 interviews, you will find minimum one or two questions from this topic in almost 6 or 7 interviews from your 10 interviews. Okay, it is that much important. So I'll note it down. I have noted down some of the interview questions, like what is CLR in .NET framework, how an application run on a .NET framework, what is the mechanism of running an application in .NET framework, what is MSIL, what is JIT, how CLR working in .NET framework, how a managed code application is running on .NET framework. And maybe there are many more questions interview can ask you, differently. Okay, but if you have a clear understanding of the CLR, what is CLR and what is the components and how it is working, then I think you can able to answer any questions, whatever it comes from this topic. Okay. Okay, thank you very much guys to watch this particular session, and hope you like this session and understand this session. If you have any comment, then please write it down below. I'll surely, if that is any query, then I'll surely come up with a convenienced reply. And apart from that, thank you. Have a good day.